All right. Now, I know that you actually want to talk a little bit about Antonio Conte, and there's been a lot said about him, particularly after Spurs' loss at the weekend. And it just wasn't the best showing of them. We did see the usual trend in that they conceded first, but what we didn't see is the fight back from them in the second half. Now, Conte has been criticised very much so after this game. In fact, not so long ago, he was actually referred to as a con man on FCTV. What do you think about comments like that with regards to Conte?
Yeah, I think that's, I mean, maybe a little disrespectful. I mean, we have to remember what he's done at Chelsea, what he's done at Inter, Juve, different teams. I mean, I happen to think that he's one of the best out there. But I do agree that he should be criticized, and he should be criticized because it seems to me like he's blackmailing the board. I've said that before, and I'll say it again. But the bottom line is that I think best managers in the world find a way to make players better. And he has a good team. What I will say is that the reason I'm defending him a little bit is because it's difficult on a team like this when you don't have Bentancur, Richarlison, Kulusevski, and Lucas Moura, right? There's a reason why Arsenal and Manchester City are where they are, because they're healthy. I mean, look at Chelsea, Broja. Again, I have to look. Chilwell, Conte, Reece James, Fofana, Loftus-Cheek, Liverpool, right? Luis Diaz, Bobby Firmino, Diogo Jota, Fabinho. I mean, Konate from time for long periods of time. I mean, how many players do you need? We always ask, teams to buy players to be 2, 3, what? They need to be 4 deep in every position right now. I mean, it's not that easy. So I do understand Antonio Conte a little bit because of all the teams that I've mentioned. His squad is probably 13, 14, 15 players. Arsenal, to a degree, is like that, but they're healthy. They're relatively healthy. So when you look at losses like that, coming off of a World Cup, and you come into the games without those players, I look at this Spurs team, and although I think they should be playing better, I can understand why they're losing games. They're just, the rest of it is just not good enough. It's as simple as that. It's not good enough to fight against the top teams. Now, some of the other teams, like the ones that they've lost recently too, you have to win. Antonio Conte has to find a way, having a player like Harry Kane, having players like Heung-min Son, he has to get them better, and others, the Sessegnons of the world, even Perisic, who's 33. He has to find solutions, and he hasn't been able to do that. On top of that, with a strong coach like Antonio Conte, was it 10 games that they go behind right now? I mean,
yeah, 10 games in all competitions.
That is inexcusable. The lack of energy in front of a full house in this unbelievable stadium that's just waiting to erupt, that is on Antonio Conte, and he has to find a way.
All right, so let me go 2 ways with this thing, because I want to pick back up on the Conte stuff and what you were talking about. Obviously, this player's injured. Now, let's say everybody's fully fit. He's still saying after games like this that they need 14 to 15 players. Don't really know what he meant with that. Like, I don't know if he meant more or if he means that strong players, and he has some of those already in the squad. But what he did actually say is that every season they need a 50 to 70 million pound player coming in every single season to be competitive. When you're talking about squad depth and those that are around him and the money that the clubs around him have got to spend, does he have a point here?
Of course he does. If we're talking about winning the title, being competitive at the highest level, that's what you need. That's what every other club does. I mean, all the top teams are doing it, and the ones that aren't doing it aren't going to be winning any titles. I mean, what can I tell you? Manchester City got Erling Haaland, who scored 21 goals for them, and they're second place, 7 points behind. If I told you this ahead of the season, I mean, just Erling Haaland coming into the club, everybody said it's done and dusted, right? Because, I mean, really. And now he proves that everybody was right by scoring 21 goals in how many games? I mean, we're not even halfway through the season. He may have 40 goals and they may not win it. So if you listen to Antonio Conte and look at his squad, he's absolutely right. He's kind of talking longer term. Maybe some of it is lost in translation, and maybe some of it is a bit of an excuse for what's happening at this particular moment because they fell out of fourth spot. But, you know, if everybody's healthy, I think he's got a very good starting 11, maybe 12, 13 players. After that, he absolutely needs players. If Spurs are to compete for any trophy, I mean, I think he was talking about the Premier League because everything else probably irrelevant, although he's doing well in the Champions League. But in terms of that, absolutely. He needs at least a player of that ilk when you spend 50, 60, if not more.
So at least a player. How many players are they away, Spurs away from actually being a title contending team?
Well, I think that you'd have to say 2 or 3 if everybody's healthy. I mean, if you look at Manchester City, I mean, truly 2, maybe 3 deep in every position. Liverpool, I think if they're healthy, probably they need some players as well. Arsenal is doing something that goes against my theory, I suppose, because they're not that deep, but they are young, they're hungry, they're in a place that they didn't think they were going to be, and they've got an incredible momentum with some quality. But I think if you look deeper at them, I mean, yeah, you know, I don't wish them to fall apart. But if they were, again, to lose a couple key players, I think we'd be talking about Arsenal in the same way as we talk about some of the other teams that are missing key players.
Right. So let me go to the other side of it because of what you mentioned with the fact that they do keep conceding. As we said, it's 10 consecutive games that they've conceded first. It's really hurting them, especially when, as we saw at the weekend, they don't have that fight back in them. How the heck is he allowing this to happen? That has to be on him.
Yes, because I mean, because defensively, we've always known that Antonio Conte's teams have been sound, and they're nothing by it, and that's where he's got to get the players. I mean, he can hide behind some of these comments, which I think, you know, sometimes are hard to understand. I mean, you know, I'm not going to go against him. You know, English is my second language. I know how that goes, but I think he's hiding. He's clever in the way he talks about and deflects in terms of what's happening in the meantime. But yes, I mean, defensively, I mean, look at Hugo Lloris, right? Very good World Cup, another howler. I mean, yesterday, I mean, that spilled ball, you just can't, you can't have that. So he's got an aging goalkeeper that's probably not good enough in order, you know, if you look into the future, I think they know that very well. They'll probably be looking to get somebody else. Cuti Romero, World Cup winner, just came back. I think that's good enough. Everywhere else in that back line, probably not the sort of Antonio Conte team that you need. So he's got to take responsibility for them defensively, because if we're going to push back at him in terms of going forward, he still has Harry Kane, who touched the ball for the first time in the 20th minute in that last game. So that's not good. You get a human Son who hasn't been himself. One hat trick, right? He scored in one game. I mean, one game this season. I mean, that seems crazy to me. He's had a decent World Cup, couple goals there. I think he scored against Eintracht Frankfurt, couple, I think, in the Champions League. But in terms of the players that he has, they are getting worse. I mean, I don't see players getting better under Antonio Conte. You can look everywhere, and matter of fact, I can't think of one player where I'd say, Antonio Conte changed that player. There's probably one. Somebody's going to push back on Twitter or here on our chat, and fair play, but not many.
Thank you very much for watching ESPN FC on YouTube. For more highlights, analysis, and exclusive content, be sure to subscribe.